Welcome to the Obesity Medicine Podcast with your host, Dr. Matthea Rentea, board certified in internal medicine and obesity medicine. Here, we talk about a path to metabolic health, and we have real conversations about chronic weight management and living a full life. Just a reminder, I am a physician, but I'm not your physician. So everything that's on this podcast is for informational purposes, but please go talk to your doctor about what's right for you. There is no medical advice being given on this podcast. Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to spend this time with all of you. I figured that I would take this first episode just very briefly to tell you a little bit more about who I am and then also about who this podcast is for. If you are new here, which I suspect that you're probably not new to me if you found this podcast, but if you are, so I'm Dr. Matthea Rentea, and as my intro said, I'm a board certified internal medicine and obesity medicine physician, and I'm the founder of the Rentea Metabolic Clinic. This is a clinic that serves patients in Illinois and Indiana. I come from a background of lots of years of primary care, and the reason that I got interested more in metabolic health and weight management is that I would sit there with patients and we would spend all of our time in the visit managing things like high blood pressure and diabetes, things like that. And a lot of the root cause of it, the insulin resistance, the weight gain, the stress management, so many of these things that were going on, we never actually got to address them. And that's because we would always be sort of putting the fires out, but never getting to the heart of it. And I know I would speak to some of my colleagues, actually some that I trained with, some physicians that were my mentors, and we would talk about this phenomenon that ironically, we probably should spend the most time talking about weight management with certain patients, but we never got to because we were doing all these other things. And so what I became increasingly interested in is how could I help my patients to manage this? I myself have gone through a weight loss struggle, and I know that for myself and for patients, what I would see, the bottom line would be, it is never solved with one simple intervention. The reality is that a lot of what we're going to talk about on this podcast is that obesity is a chronic, lifelong condition. Unfortunately, we do not have a cure for it. We have lots of good treatments. We have medications. We have surgery. We have different lifestyle interventions. I could go on and on. I always say there are thousands and millions of ways you can lose weight, but not very many of them are evidence-based or really sustainable or necessarily, when I say sustainable, keep weight off long-term. I have become very interested in this and how we can really long-term help people's metabolic health. And the reason I started this podcast, it's because I've been growing my social media presence, which I never thought would be a thing. If you knew me before a few years ago, I literally did not have a footprint online. I was not anywhere. But what happened is I just noticed that there was so much misinformation, so much blaming and shaming patients and making this somehow that someone would choose to have this as a problem. And well, they can just calorie restrict their way out of obesity and they should just exercise more, and really just not understanding any of the basic physiology, what some of the evidence-based studies show us, some of the randomized controlled trials. And so I decided in the midst of all of that, I'm going to go ahead and put a podcast out there where if someone wants to really understand the medical side of this, if they want to hear some good conversation with other specialists, if you want to hear from someone, that's me, that's actually clinically practicing every single day. What I also realized when I was out there, if you really start to look up a lot of the people that are online, you will see that they might not even be clinically practicing, but they're sitting there talking like they really know what's going on. And the reality is they don't ever have anyone in front of them. They're just sort of reading literature and pontificating in their mind what it would be like. And so I want to bring all this together for you. So this is really going to be for you if, number one, you actually do believe that this is a chronic medical problem. And if you're someone that thinks that, you don't like that label, things like that, this will not be a good place for you. Because what we're doing here is realizing that this is actually a medical condition and we have treatment for it like anything else. This is not a moral failing. This is not a way that you're weak. There are massive physiologic changes that happen as we try to lose weight. Our body 100% wants to fight us. There are hormones that change dramatically that try to get you to gain the weight back. And we're going to talk about all of that. And I think it's fascinating stuff. I often say I just geek out over this. I love talking about it. I love reading about it. I love talking to guests about it. And so we're going to get into all of that here. This is really much more active clinical application that I see with patients. Again, there's no medical advice being given here, but just sort of a general stuff that I'm seeing. We might a little bit talk about some trials and studies, things like that, when some newer medications come out. But again, if you're wanting a super dry science version, this isn't going to be the podcast for you. I think there are a lot of amazing ones though. And again, I want to be that resource for you where we'll do an episode coming up where I say, hey, go check out all these different podcast episodes for different reasons. So I want to kind of bring that together for you so you can kind of cut down on the amount of junk that you need to look at out there. This is a little bit longer form. A lot of you might have come to me through TikTok. That's where I've done majority of my things, but there's a 3-minute max there right now. And again, that might change in the future. Everything's changing all the time, but I really can't talk about very many things in that short form. On here, we're going to have a little bit longer conversations. We're going to throw out a lot of this old mentality of sort of calories in, calories out model. We're going to talk a lot more about hunger hormones. We're going to have some really interesting conversations here with a lot of the colleagues that I'm really good friends with, where there's a lot of intersection with weight. For example, I think that instead of you randomly Googling things online about skin, I think that it's helpful to hear a conversation with a dermatologist. So I'm going to bring you that. Instead of sitting there and speculating what might be best for your kid, let's go ahead and bring a pediatric endocrinologist on and let's have that conversation. I have that prepared for you as well. You are going to hear sort of the inside conversations that I'm privy to every single day that's very normalized to me, but that the general public does not hear. I want to bring those to you. I want you to get educated on this. I want you to decrease shame. I want you just to normalize this is a medical problem like anything else. And then I want us to come up with some solutions. I want you to realize that it's no one size fits all. So me, just like any other doctor out there, we might have some suggestions, we might have some guidance, we might have some ways of thinking about things, but everybody's different. And I want you to start to get empowered with that. So I want you to hear how, for example, no matter what diet people go on, usually after a few months, everybody's normalizing as far as how much they lose or what they keep off. We're going to have all these talks. It's going to be really great. Lots of open, honest conversations. And I think you're really going to enjoy it. So what you can expect is that every Monday, I'm going to have an episode come out. And if you want certain topics covered, you have burning questions. I know I get them from you all the time online, and that's what's going to drive a lot of this. It's very much so what you want to hear. It's also going to be a little bit of what you need and not just what you think you need. But if there are topics that you want to go over, go ahead and leave them in the comments on the show notes on my website. So you can go to www.renteaclinic.com. That's RENTEA clinic.com. And you can leave it under there. And you best believe that we're going to be including those in the future. That marks the end of today's episode. But if you're newer to the podcast, I want to tell you about something that we have, and it's a free podcast roadmap. So this is perfect for any of you that are listening where you want to be directed to very specific episodes. So let's say that you are just starting out and you want to know, what should I do right when I start on the medications? Or you're experiencing certain side effects on the GLP-1s, or you want to know what to do if you're in a plateau, or if emotional eating is taking over, or if hunger levels are high. So we have many different categories of episodes that we've talked about, because there's a lot at this point. So if you want to be able to navigate that very easily, we have it broken down by category and also the episodes that are there, and we hyperlink to everything. So you can just click on it and find the episode, easy peasy. If you want that, you can go to renteaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. We'll have it linked right here underneath the show notes where you're listening. And you can go ahead and get that free resource so that it makes it easy for you to navigate, because I know that it's really hard when someone has an established podcast. I am such a podcast fiend. I'm listening to podcasts all day long. And when I find one that I love, but there's a lot that are out there, I am so lost. So I hope that you enjoy this free podcast roadmap. Again, the link to get to that is going to be renteaclinic.com/podcast roadmap. I hope this is helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.